Hello friends, welcome back to Russian. This is our third video in Russian, and as you've probably expected, we're going to go ahead and finish up our vowels by looking at OU, O, like this, the sounds relating to the letter O, U, and some other vowel sounds, which is basically the schwa sound. In the last video, we covered the vowel sounds relating to A, E, and I. So you can always go back and look at those. And so again, basically, we're going to talk about the sound, how that's usually spelled in Russian, if there's more than one way to spell it, and some example words, which are always great to see. So let's start. Let's try to make this a little colorful video, so we can change up the colors today. So first of all, we'll start with O. Now O, well, that's pretty. It's a nice color. O is one of my favorite vowels, usually because it's pretty simple. And so far, what we've noticed, if you've noticed that in some of the Asian languages, such as Japanese and Chinese, the vowels aren't too hard. They're pretty simple and they're spelled how they sound. In Russian, it can very much be as simple, and because people usually think Russian is really hard and complex, which it can be. But in this case, with the letter O, it's not. So that's good. So we can just quickly look at it. So the first sound we're going to look at, there's two sounds. The first one is our long O sound. Okay, so it's O with a line over it. And this is pronounced O, just pronounced O. The O saying its own name. And I think pretty much every language we've looked at, they spell this sound with, the simple letter O. That's it. I know French, there were many ways to spell this. There was O-T, O-S, E-A-U, E-A-U-X, A-U. So many ways to spell this sound in French. But pretty much every other language, trying to say, I don't want to say something wrong and then I take that back, but most other languages, the O sound is going to be spelled with simply an O, and that is the case here. So let's find another color. So yeah, we're just going to spell this with the letter O. Pretty much no exceptions to that. Hang on, let's make that look better. The sound O might not even be that common in Russian, so not too much to worry about, but if you do hear it, this is pretty much the only way to spell it. Example word I can think of right now is Bolshevik. That just comes to mind. So yeah, here, this pen is a little slow today. Bolshevik. Of course, we have the O there. It's O sound, Bolshevik. So usually in the middle of the words this happens. Another example is Bogatyr. Tyr. So Bogatyr is a medieval hero. That's what it means. But in both of these words, you can see that the O sound is spelled simply with an O, and nothing hard or fancy there. Okay, so that is our long O sound. Okay, let's erase this better. And next we're going to move on to the other sound with O, which a lot of people tend to get confused on. So let's try to fix that confusion real fast. The sound is O with a dot on top. And it's kind of like the short O, and it's pronounced aw. Now you might think this sounds very similar to a sound we've seen earlier, which is the A with two dots. However, there is a slight difference between the two. So this A with two dots is pronounced ah, and this one is pronounced aw. It's your jaw is a little bit more compact when you're saying this one. So this is ah, and this is aw. So it's kind of like saying the word law. We don't say law, right? Follow the law. No, it's usually follow the law. So it's the sound there. So that's how it's different from A with two dots. Of course, not a big difference, but it can matter. So this one is aw, and there are very few exceptions, but the main rule again is just gonna be spelled with an O. But there are a few exceptions to this one. Again, the sound is not as common, but usually it's going to be spelled with an O. There are exceptions though, very few of them. And I don't know why this pen is so slow today. It's hard to write in. I'm going to try my best. So very few exceptions. Probably only one, because I'm thinking of the word Chernozyam, and that one's a very fancy spelling. It's Chernozem, And here the E is the ah sound, it's Chernozyom. And so that's obviously very unique. Don't worry, this doesn't happen in Russian all the time, because most of the time you're going to have easy words that spell ah with an O, such as Sabor, Sobor, and this is I believe it's a synod or something relating to the Eastern Orthodox Church, something like that. And then another word you might be a little bit more familiar with is stroganoff, Stroganoff. And so here you have it twice, stroganoff, and it's of course a method of cooking. Think it's like having something thinly sliced. So that's stroganoff, and it's a very Russian word, something you might be familiar with. But in most cases, like I said, the O sound is going to be spelled with an O. The sound itself isn't very common, so the chance that you'll run into it is very slim. Plus, it's Russian, so the chance that you'll run into Russian and then a Russian word having this sound is really slim. So, you probably won't get something like this, but if you do, just spell it with an O usually, and just remember there are very few exceptions. This might be the only one. You can always do a search in the dictionary. Remember, there's only like 500 Russian words in the dictionary, or words that come from Russian. So if you do one day, or within a week, you can always go through just those words, and then you can be sure you've mastered Russian. So that's something to do. So very few exceptions. This might be the only one. Chernozyom. Alright, so that covers O for us. So we're good there, and now we're going to move on to U, which gets even better for us because it's not difficult. There's only one sound we're going to look at, and that sound is our U with two dots. So we're on the letter U. Oh wow, that's huge. Okay, that's fine. That's a big U. The first sound, or the only sound we're going to look at here again is, find a nice color, is our U with two dots. Okay, I gotta fix this brush size. Okay, so the U with two dots here, this is pronounced oo. Okay, your typical sound, as in food. So it's the oo sound you hear, and Russian is really good with this sound actually. It's very common, and the good thing is that you will, have it spelled only one way. Again, that's just simply with a U. There are plenty of Russian words with this sound. A lot of them we are familiar with already, or you might be familiar with mostly, such as gulag, Gulag. Here we have it here, or kulak, pretty much, Kulak. Short words like this, they have the like these. They have the U for the oo sound. A kulak, by the way, is peasant farmer, and gulag were those kind of places that they sent people to during, like Stalin would have people. I'll just look it up to give you a nice definition. Yeah, it's the system of the unit of Soviet Socialist republics consisting of labor camps. That's what I was looking for, labor camps, like during Stalin's time. So that's gulag. Again, you can see the U with two dots is spelled with a U. Very simple there, and not much to talk about there because that's pretty much it with U. Okay, and then the last thing we're going to look at today is our other sounds, and by other, pretty much that means schwa. Now, unfortunately for us, we're not going to be so lucky with the schwa today. Some languages are very good with the schwa. They have one spelling or two spellings, but usually that isn't the case. So you have the schwa sound. Remember, just a refresher, it's the upside down E, and it's pronounced like UH. Pretty much that's how it's pronounced, and it can usually be spelled with any vowel, A, E, I, or U. And that's what makes it so tricky for spellers to figure out which one it is, but we have a method of trying to figure out which one it is if you don't know the word already. So in Russian, the rule, it can be any one of those things that I just mentioned. It could be A, it could be E, it could be I, it could be O, it could be U. From what I've noticed, I just did a search on Merriam-Webster, there aren't too many of them that have I in it. Probably like one or two. There was one word that I saw had I, and it was Maturism, and again, that comes from a name. But if you go through and you look at all the Russian words, there aren't too many schwas that are spelled with an I. Usually if they are, it has a name. It comes from a name. What I saw is E was actually pretty heavy for schwa. Like lots of words used E. And that's kind of unusual because normally we see A, but we'll talk about that in a second. For A, if the word ends in a schwa, like the schwa is the last part of the word, then you're going to spell it with an A. There are so many words that end in a schwa that you spell with an A, such as, let's see, like purga, or like even toga. Toga is not Russian, but those are words like that. If they end in an A, you're going to, if they end in the schwa sound, sorry, you're probably going to spell it with an A. So let's write that here so we don't forget. If it ends the word, if the schwa sound ends the word, you can pretty much be set on the spelling. And that's actually true, hang on. That's pretty much true of most languages except German. Remember, German, if the word ends in a schwa, the sound, typically you'll be spelling it with an E, such as blintze. So blintze is B-L-I-N-T-Z-E. So that's only German. Pretty much every other language, if the schwa sound ends the word, it's the last sound in the word, you're going to spell it with an A. Otherwise, pretty much everything else is up for grabs. One thing I like to say is if you can ask for the alternate pronunciation, do that, because lots of times the alternate pronunciation will give away which vowel it is. And that can very well happen with Russian as well. So yeah, there are words that have E, which is a little bit more common in Russian, something I thought I noticed. But you have words like Perwitsky, okay, which is a kind of weasel. Perwitsky, again, you can see the E here makes the schwa sound. It's the Perwitsky. Here's something where we could use our speller intuition, our Sprachgefühl, is because if you stuck an A in there, it would look like it would be pronounced Parwitsky. I don't think you would think it to be pronounced Perwitsky. Same thing with an O. If you put an O in there, it would probably look like it would be pronounced Porwitsky. So here, your only good options are E or U, because U could fit well, and I is not really common. So your only good options are E or U. So you've boiled it down to that. So, and then U just, to me, it doesn't look right. So you can probably figure out that it's an E. So that's kind of process of elimination, plugging in the other letters to see, and using your speller intuition to figure out which one it is, because that does work most of the time. Some other example words up here with O, we have bogomil, B-O-G-O-M-I-L. Here we have the O, and another word is samovar, S-A-M-O-V-A-R. Again here, plug it in, see it looks right. Here the O could work. Whereas here in Perwitsky, it looks like it would be wrong, but here it could very much work. So use that. There's not much else I can say. Here's something important. When I say the schwa ends the word, it's going to be spelled with an A. That doesn't mean that it can't be an A anywhere else. It could certainly be an A in the middle of the word too, such as the word polatush, which I know has been asked before at the National Bee. Which is, I think it's a kind of flying squirrel, something like that. So a polatush, sure, you have the A in the middle of the word. So just because A is most frequent at the end of the word, it doesn't mean it can't pop up anywhere else. It can happen in the middle of the word too. So that's that. There's not much to say here for rule-wise, and I think that's one of the reasons we like spelling, is because it's so kind of unpredictable. It's certainly not mathematics. There's no formula to figure out which one it is. So that is the beauty of spelling. And that's kind of what makes it hard sometimes too. But again, you can rely on all these tools, the alternate pronunciation, your intuition to figure out what it is. I mean, also, it doesn't have to be A, E, I, O, or U. There's one word, Belina, and this isn't actually a proper schwa. It's the schwa with the dot on top, which is pronounced a little bit more compactly. It's Belina, but still the Y is used for the schwa. So I mean, anything could happen. So I think these 6 are your good options: A, E, I, O, U, or Y. Of course, I and Y are not that common. And then for the rest of them, just plug them in and see, and hopefully you won't run into a word that has a schwa, but if you do, again, it's not math, so we can't put a rule to it, and that's what makes it tricky, but hopefully using these will help you. So that concludes our vowels for Russian, and in the next few videos we'll take a look at some consonant sounds. Russian does spell consonants a little bit differently, but most things are the same, so we'll talk about those, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you, bye!